It would be great if no one broke the law. Right. It would be great if everyone understood their constitutional rights and appropriate interaction with police officers. It would be great if people waited an hour for evidence. It would be great if Ilhan Omar didn't tweet out 2-year-old videos to stoke the flames of racial hatred. But that's not the world that we live in. And so the best that we can do at this point is get to the truth. And that requires waiting just a minute. My question of the day to all of you is, have you noticed a lot of the stories about the police treating protesters unfairly? Just like Black Lives Matter, I think we had to remove that because it was considered offensive from YouTube with the whole Vox Apocalypse purge a while back. But it's available, of course, for people who are watching exclusively at loudwithcrowder.com/mugclub on the Blaze. Yeah. But do you notice that they turn, if you just wait a little bit for the evidence, they usually turn out to be false? And also, let's say that's not the case. Let's say there wasn't a storied track record of that. It still is prudent to wait a little bit. And again, just like the idea of Black Lives Matter, hands up, don't shoot, was hands were down, he was reaching for the thing that shoots, the cop's gun.
That's a different
So
thing.
it was predicated on a lie. The truth matters when you're going to try and take a human interest story, which, of course, I think it's effective, and it should be. People should care about human beings. We should love one another and love other human beings, but then to obfuscate the actual data, which we've addressed the data. But now I want to get into, specifically with these Black Lives Matter protesters, a lot of the most viral clips, or the hashtag justice for, insert lie here. So let's go through the top 5 examples of I guess initial clips.
So many.
Initial clips or claims that then when you provide context, sort of change them, put them in a different light. So the first one that comes to mind is there was a man who was hit by a car and people were calling for the head. I don't remember his name specifically because it was a white guy, so no one really cares. They just wanted him dead because he hit a protester. Which at first, that sounds terrible.
Sounds bad.
Yeah. And the guy has all the tattoos, so he's like straight from central casting to be someone you'd want to hate. But central casting, facts do not make. Let's remember this just to refresh your memory.
See what they gonna do about it. He just hit an innocent black man and he's a white man. Let's see what y'all do about it.
Someone is dying and they're walking.
Yeah, run, run.
Look on your face, dude.
Look at this right here.
And they were really mad because they're letting the guy smoke a cigarette.
No, where your family come from? Where your family come from?
Peaceful.
That's the mob.
Wow.
You know exactly what you're getting away with.
Now, I don't know a whole lot about this backstory, but there's a general rule for personal protection. If you don't want to be accused of being white supremacist, don't shave your heads and do a white goatee.
Don't put on the team uniform.
To stay safe,
Not saying it makes you guilty, but it doesn't help. So here's the truth about this, because people were immediately saying, this man needs to be put in custody. Why isn't this man being treated brutally by police officers? Let's assume for a second that he actually did hit a protester, maybe deliberately. Let's assume that this is a guy who... There's a difference between... A lot of people say white crime. These people commit crimes that are far worse. Why do they get minimum security prisons? Well, there's a difference between violent crime, or a crime that is an immediate threat to the officer, and something that isn't. I can arrest a Bernie Madoff and not worry about it turning into rape in the shower. That's also why you can put people in a minimum security resort and not worry about it turning into rape in the shower. So the truth here is that the protester was hit while walking out into the middle of traffic. Multiple witnesses, again, before the jury pool was tainted, said that the driver tried to swerve and avoid him, and the driver was going the speed limit and wasn't intoxicated. So what does that tell you right away? Okay, speed limit, obeying it. They did a breathalyzer, some kind of toxicology test, and then they right away went to eyewitnesses, and many of them were corroborated. Now that matters because one is a horrible, violent crime that is inspired by hatred, and one is an accident because somebody else was breaking the law in walking through the middle of traffic, and unfortunately, horribly, a tragedy occurred, and that's also why we've always said these riots won't help. Please stop them. Here's another one. This was the biggest one for a couple of days. Then it went away. And by the way, let's not let these go away. Just like impeachment, no, I want that election. Just like COVID, no, I want that election. Just like hands up, don't shoot, I want you to bring it back up. I want anyone who makes that claim to be put on display for the public to argue the truth. Corin Gaines. Remember, we got all kinds of flack. We got temporarily suspended on Instagram. She was holding a shotgun and using her child as a human shield. You can't hear the name Corin Gaines anymore. Right. James Scurlock will be one of those, right?
Yeah.
This was the first headline. It was a white bar owner in Omaha shot and killed a black protester, and he wouldn't face any charges. They said that his dad owned the bar, that he was screaming the N-word, that he basically went out and hunted a black person. And the problem with this, especially when it's not true, is you were creating a false narrative that it's black versus white, or that white people have had a secret meeting where we would be okay with some other white guy going out and shooting an innocent black civilian solely based on race. I don't know. Maybe it's because I choose my association carefully, aside from Trumbo over here. I do not know a single white person who would be okay with that.
No.
Well, thankfully, there's security camera footage, and it turns out that the man in question, the man who shot James Scurlock, had actually been mounted and pummeled into the concrete twice. Scurlock, the man who was shot, was the second person after the first two guys who were pummeling him were scared off with a warning shot. Here's a clip.
Shortly after this point, two people jump on the bar owner's back. There's a struggle in the street. Jake Gardner
Peaceful
fires
protesters.
2 shots.
2 shots.
11 seconds later, James Scurlock jumps on the back of the bar owner. They wrestle in the street.
Wow.
Listen.
What do you
It's the
expect the guy to do?
second time. The guy fired warning shots for the first 2. 3 strikes, you're shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we hate that somebody had, died for this, but when you attack somebody, especially in a mob situation, Stephen, you were in a mob situation where you got attacked before.
Sure.
Your head is on survival. Your head is, oh my God, I have no idea where the next attack is coming from.
Yeah.
Somebody jumps on his back. The first thing he's going to do is I got to protect myself. There could be 3 more coming.
Let me be really clear here. I'm not sad that in this specific instance someone was shot. I'm sad of the actions that took us here from our leaders.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm actually happy that the man who was being pummeled for the second time was able to defend his life and limb.
I am too, yes.
But I'm really sad that, contrary to the opinions of people like ourselves, said, please stop these riots going on. We need law and order. This is going to result in more deaths across the board. Nobody listened, and not a peep about these protests because they weren't people actually demanding that they can open up their businesses, as with COVID-19. Remember when that was the thing? Number 3 in all of these, and I want you to let me know of ones that maybe I've missed. It's really hard to pick them out.
There's so many.
This was another white man, and people remember that I don't want to say critic, art critic in Dallas, the vandal in Dallas
the vandal,
say, why when you read a report, why do they say black man and they don't say white guy? I don't know about you. I've always seen in these last few, even if it's a white guy who's innocent, like white man defends life by shooting black looter.
Even when it's like an Asian or a Hispanic person, they say white man now, just to kind of lump it all together.
Don't foreshadow.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that part.
So white man, you're too busy reading the Communist Manifesto. Trumbo. We don't know what you're
interesting.
up to.
It's good to know history.
This was a white man who supposedly, the first story that you heard was drove into protesters, jumped out, and then shot someone. Here's a clip. Now remember, this was the #1 trend at this point. So,
wow.
And obviously, listen, what happens there is that is a tragedy in the sense it's an unfortunate situation that could have been avoided at so many points in this timeline. That to me is the greatest tragedy.
Yeah.
There were so many points to stop rioting and looting and some kind of an insurrection from people trying to defend their neighborhoods. And by the way, if the left had their way now with complete disbanding of the police, then you end up with vigilante justice. I'm saying the same thing now. Don't do this, Minneapolis. You're going to see more violence. I don't want to see more lives lost. Black, white, red, yellow. I don't care.
No.
Can we say red? Sorry. Black, white, yellow, First Nations. Speaking of a white guy who ran over the protest and then shot them with a car, turns out the white man in question was Nicholas Fernandez.
Oh, that sounds white to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound.
When
And
I
I
think
did
white
not
guy,
see that. I wasn't intentionally stepping on a joke
No,
like I
I know.
normally do. But
now
didn't see that.
he claimed that he wasn't familiar with the area, that he got stuck going the wrong way down a one-way street, and then according to witnesses, a protest reached in the window and tried to grab his gun and got shot. Now he is being held on charges of first-degree assault, which, this is where it's difficult if you don't actually have evidence at that point. You are going on eyewitness testimony, and unfortunately, because at this point people think the end justify the means, that all they're not going to tell the truth, a lot of these people. How do you get some people going, he yelled the N-word, and the other 5 people say, no, he didn't?
No.
How do you get one person, 5 people saying, well, he reached for his gun, and one person saying, no, he just went out and ran them over, and he was waving the Confederate flag? It's well, one of these is not like the other, and truth matters. And that's the real problem here with this. I hate to say us versus them tribalism, because that's something that fence-sitting centrists often use, and I don't mean it in the sense that you shouldn't pick a set of values to adhere to, but in this case, if you are being questioned by a cop, your first duty, it is a requirement under the law, is to tell the truth. By the way, hit the notification bell, hit all notifications. If you're watching on the YouTube, because subscriptions don't mean a whole lot, you can subscribe to the audio podcast, and please do consider joining at louderwithcreditor.com/mug club. You get this wonderful mug, 80% more content, and of course the entire Blaze catalog. Myth number 4, this is another one, number 4 of an example. Remember this one, that an NYPD officer that shot an unarmed 13-year-old 19 times, right? This was something that we also read. What's the truth? And this comes from NBC New York. It was actually a 34-year-old armed gunman who had just shot someone.
Wow.
Yeah, you could say that's different.
Now, I know some people say, well, you only believe in the cop report. Well, hold on a second. Methinks that the person who was shot, or witnesses have something to say. There is also ballistic testing.
Oh.
So it's more than, just, well, he said something mean. Is that your 45 there? You're right. Number 5, and this one even surprised me, because Ilhan Omar tweeted out this video, and I want to be clear about this. The context really matters here, because there are 2 layers of lies. This was an example tweeted out by Ilhan Omar just, I think, 2-3 days ago. I think it might have been June 5th, and everyone saw this. This trended, of course. Thanks, Squad. She was providing information as to why police can't be reformed. Was the context. Here we go.
My husband's a photographer in here.
Where?
Bus station, please.
Go get her husband. Go get her husband now. Where's she at? Where's he at?
Now, by the way, that officer is actually not choking that woman. You can see right away
Don't
she's
choke
clearly
her
not
bro.
out.
What are you doing?
Right now, he's not choking.
Moving. She's not even moving. No,
Okay.
that's not even cool, dude. What
This is something people see how I told you
She's
where
not
the
even
weight
moving.
would be on the
Yeah.
back. You couldn't put weight on the neck in that scenario.
Stop what? She's not moving.
Shut up, sir.
What the fuck?
You're really strangling her. Please. Okay?
Holy shit. Hey, where's your husband at?
At the photographer station.
Okay. Here's what shocked me, because I did initially look at the website. I think this happened in Bellevue, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was a local police department, so I often go to the local source and try and read the report myself. And it was an appropriate use of force. There are also, before we get to it, here's actually some video. There is nothing with the entire context of the video, but this one shows you that she was resisting arrest, obviously. And then in the report, she reached for the gear shift and continually reached in her purse. When the police officer said, please stop, he thought she could be reaching for a weapon. And then this video starts where you can see the resisting arrest occur long before that video.
Abusing me. I do not want a contract. No.
Stop or you're going to ground.
I asked you for a sheriff. I asked you for a sheriff.
Over on your stomach.
My husband's a photographer in there. Please go get him.
Get on the ground. I'm going to put you out. On your stomach. On your stomach.
I'm on my
Arms out
stomach.
like an airplane.
I can't.
Arms out like an airplane. I'm going to put you out.
Okay, so that provides a little bit more context.
And that matters, yeah.
Here's something else that matters. That's a video from an incident that's 2 years old.
Oh my gosh.
2 years old. Now, I know it's tough to look at, but this is important. That officer did not choke that woman, and that's a problem you're going to have right now. When you say you can't have any vascular restraints, well, guess what? If anyone out there who does grappling, you know, if you miss a choke, for example, or anyone who watches the UFC, what you can see is if you miss a choke and someone doesn't go out, what happens is it turns into a neck crank.
Yeah.
You end up either crushing the jaw or you have to crank the neck. You need to control somebody, right? You need to be able to control a perp. When you see that video, this is something a lot of people may not recognize, but there's a position called knee on belly if someone is on their back. You are putting your knee on their belly, all of that weight. How we are taught this in class is this leg should be able to move around.
Right, exactly.
All of your weight should be on the belly. If you put that weight on the neck, you couldn't control them. They would immediately slide out. It would hurt for half a second.
Right.
In that scenario, what you see is a restraint, and you clearly see him pivot around from her back. She is not unconscious. He wasn't choking her. He was putting her in that position to try and control her.
Right.
And then gets her in a shoulder lock where all his weight is on her back, and this other leg acts as a block for her arm. he wouldn't be able to pull off that pivot and maneuver if the weight was on her neck. But everyone's going to be looking for it now. Careful what you wish for. If you tell officers they cannot use any vascular restraints, you're probably going to end up with more joint and neck injuries, and I do think it should be a last resort. But what do you do when someone... By the way, you don't get to call for the sheriff. I want a sheriff.
Sheriff.
Well, you know what? Maybe he'll be at the police department, or maybe he'll be off on vacation. I don't know. Oh, there you go, into the clink.
Yeah. Well, and it was being, like, hey, do not move, do not move. When he had her, when he was restraining her, saying, hey, do not move, because she had been resisting before, because she had been messing around
and
before,
reaching in her purse,
right? And reaching for stuff. Like,
how often do you see vehicular slaughter on police officers?
Oh, yeah.
It's super common. That's why now, when we were growing up, we didn't have to cut nearly as wide of a swath with police officers. But because there were record numbers of police officers being hit, they now had to take certain precautions.
Yeah.
And none of it is something that we're happy about. It would be great if no one broke the law.
Right.
It would be great if everyone understood their constitutional rights and appropriate interaction with police officers. It would be great if people waited an hour for evidence. It would be great if Ilhan Omar didn't tweet out 2-year-old videos to stoke the flames of racial hatred. But that's not the world that we live in. And so the best that we can do at this point is get to the truth. And that requires waiting just a minute. Hey, if you enjoyed this show, subscribe or hit the notification bell. It's cold in here, so I'm covering my nips. Hit all notifications on the notification bell, because apparently subscriptions don't mean a whole lot. Look, what they're playing in boxes. Is that what's happening, Quarter Black Garrett? There are videos playing in boxes. You should click one of them. Maybe one of them's a mystery box. Could cut glass with these things.